Well, we're going to check in San Antonio with
right.
Ryan Fannon, the radio voice of the Villanova Wildcats, as the Cats win. They are in the Final Four for the second time in 3 years, and really a historic win the other day. Ryan, I mean, this group of seniors has accomplished something that no senior class has ever done.
It's been an amazing 4-year stretch, and to think that this team doesn't have one senior that eligibility-wise is what makes it remarkable. But in terms of the 4-year stretch, you think about Duke in the 97-98 season through the 2000-2001 season. I remember being at that game in Minneapolis when Duke beat Gilbert Arenas in Arizona in 2001, and that stretch for Duke where they won 133 games in that 4-year stretch. And I was thinking, how do you ever do that? And now Villanova has won 134 games in the last 4 years, the most Division I wins in a 4-year stretch in the history of college basketball at this level.
Crazy.
It's really just a bizarre stat.
Yeah, and they did it basically to do this, to get to the championship game, they're going to have to win the Big 12. I mean, they went through West Virginia, they got through Texas Tech, and now it's Kansas. But go back to that West Virginia game, because it's really a defining time. It's a 6-point game, 60-54, and a lot of people on social media was like, it's just not good, doesn't look good, this is not going their way, I'm a little concerned. And then a whirlwind happened.
It sure did. It was an 11-0 run that came after that turned into a 19-4 run that concluded, when it was all said and done, a 22-6 run, and Villanova took full command of the game. And the amazing thing about that 11-0 run was it came in 1 minute and 55 seconds. And this is the explosiveness of this team. I think when you look at Villanova this year, there's been storylines all year. There's been the injuries. There's been the first half of the year when everybody was like, wow, this is an incredible offensive team, but they're not quite playing the normal defense that Villanova does. And then I think there was 2 defining moments. When Villanova gave up 103 points and lost at Butler on December 30th, that was a moment where Jay really got the guys back and said, look, we need to improve defensively. And they did, but then the injuries hit, and it just wasn't all together. But that loss at Creighton on February 24th, when Villanova lost in overtime, gave up 89 points. After that, the team absolutely took on a new identity defensively, starting in the next game against Seton Hall when they gave up only 52 points in regulation. Since then, Villanova's played incredible defense, and that Seton Hall game, of course, has started a 9-game winning streak. Villanova now peaking at both ends of the floor, healthy. This is what you want, to play your best basketball in March, and now they got a chance, if they win Saturday, to play into April.
Ryan Fannon, the radio voice of the Villanova Wildcats, and they go on to beat West Virginia. They shot the lights out in that game, which didn't make me very happy. But that being said, they take on Texas Tech, and they did not play very well in that game. But a sign of a good team is that when you don't play your best, especially at this level of the season, they were able to pull that game out against a very good defensive Texas Tech team.
Well, you guys remember so much about Villanova's run 2 years ago, how it was like every shot they made went in. But folks forget that there was one game in that run where the shots did not go in, and it was the Elite Eight win over Kansas in 2016 when Kansas had won 17 in a row coming in. Villanova shot just 40% in that Elite Eight game, made only 4 threes, but their defense and their rebounding was tremendous. And you go to the Texas Tech game, and mirror images. That game, Villanova could not make shots. They shoot 33% against Texas Tech. They make exactly the same threes that they made 2 years ago in the Elite Eight, made only 4, but yet destroyed Texas Tech on the glass, 51-33, plus 18 on the glass, a season-high 20 offensive rebounds, and Villanova's defense was stifling. And that's how you win 6 games in this tournament. You're always going to have your off-shooting game, and you have to have that one game you're going to survive, and you've got to do it on the rebound and the defensive end, and Villanova was able to do that this past Sunday in Boston.
Hey, Ryan, this Kansas team, it's not one of these all-time great Kansas teams. West Virginia had them down 20 both times they played 3 times, had them down 20 both times in the regular season, couldn't hold them off. They just keep coming at you and coming at you. What, in your research for this game so far, what concerns you about Kansas?
Well, they're very similar to Villanova in the fact that they can shoot the long ball. Wow, can they? They make 10 threes a game. Villanova makes 11.5 threes a game. So you have two prolific shooting teams. You've got teams that, like Villanova, like to spread you out, and this Kansas team can do that. Devontae Graham, LaGerald Vick, Davi Mikhailuk, and Malik Newman. And Newman's been on fire in the last couple weeks. He's the guy a lot of people don't know about because they so much hype about Devontae Graham, but Malik Newman's been tremendous. But then with those four guards, they attack extremely well off the dribble drive. They get to the rim. They drill threes. And then you've got the really interesting storyline, guys, in the 5-spot matchup in this game. You've got, for Villanova, Omari Spellman, that will go out and drill threes at a 44% rate. And you've got Udoka Azubuike, who's a big-time center in terms of 7 feet, but he's coming off that knee injury. He didn't even play in the Big 12 tournament. How is he going to be able to step out and chase Spellman around, with Spellman being a stretch 5 is one of the most intriguing matchups of this Final Four on Saturday night in San Antonio.
Ryan, I'm glad you said his name because I was just reading it here in print, and I thought I'll just call him the 7-footer. That's the one. But you have to say his name when you do the play-by-play. So you think that's going to be one key? Jalen Brunson, by the way, picks up some accolades today. How much or how close will you be looking at the guard matchup between Brunson and Graham?
Well, it's such a big matchup. And, it's like you go back to the West Virginia matchup. There was so much talk about Carter and the Brunson matchup. But here's the thing that really bodes well for Villanova. They have 6 guys every night in Brunson, Booth, Bridges, Pascal, Spellman, and DiVincenzo that can easily score 20 or more points on any given night. So it's sort of on paper fun to talk about the Carter-Brunson matchup, or now the Devontae Graham and Brunson matchup. And Brunson just won the AP National Player of the Year in the last few hours, was announced. And I think he's going to win the Naismith Sunday. And I think a week from Friday he's going to win the Wood. And I think he's going to take them all this year. It's set up, I think, that he's going to do that. But the guards that Villanova has, Kansas has got some good ones. But I think in the end, Villanova's offensive firepower, if they can stay with the kind of defensive and rebounded focus that they've had, I think that's the difference maker, and that's what you guys saw in the West Virginia game. It was that you never know when Villanova is going to make that spurt, and it usually comes in 2 minutes or less often.
Have you seen a change in this Final Four trip to other Final Four trips, or was there something learned along the way? Because I know, you say 3 trips to the Final Four. Well, they're Final Four experienced. Is that a legitimate factor of teams knowing what to expect when they get there?
I think it's a huge factor in the fact that guys like Bridges and Brunson and Booth, 3 guys that played in the Final Four 2 years ago and were part of that 8-man rotation on the 2016 National Championship team, they can explain to the young guys, look, these are the distractions of the interviews you've got to do and fans everywhere. And Jay Wright talked about in 2009 when Villanova went to Detroit and played North Carolina. He said, his thought was, gosh, these guys earned it. Let's go, enjoy the moment, spend time with your family, take it all in. And he said he got about 5 or 10 minutes into the North Carolina game and he realized his team was not ready to play. And he said, I'm going to change things if I get a chance to go back. And in 16, he went more of the bunker mentality. It was all business. They separated themselves, and they really took a little bit of a different approach. And Jay said that model in 16 that worked, he's going to try to do a lot of those same things in 16. And you learn. And, Villanova's gone to 6 Final Fours now in school history, 3 under Jay Wright. And the experience of the coach, the experience of the players, I think this has to pay off. I mean, Kansas hasn't been to a Final Four with this group until this year. We know Loyola hasn't been since back in the 60s. And, Michigan, last time they went was 2013 when they lost to Louisville in the championship. So Villanova has the Final Four experience on the player side that nobody has this weekend.
And I did find it pretty interesting, Ryan, that in 2009, that was the first year they went to the big full stadium and they got the open practice, but their actual practice was at a different place. Now they've got that closed practice on the actual stadium court so they can get, because, look, the open practice is kind of just, it's like walkthroughs for a football team. And then when they start to run any real plays, they kick the media out, right? Well, in the open practice format, they're actually going to get one closed practice in there where they're really doing their work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a good move. Tomorrow's the big fan fest where they have the open practices. It's great for the fans. It's free. They can head over to the Alamo Dome, and you've got Villanova practice. 4 straight starts at the top of the hour for 4 straight hours, and it's a great day. And then they have all the media sessions, and it's just a great day over tomorrow. I can't wait to get over there and take it all in. And then, of course, Saturday, it's interesting. So many storylines this week, but how about the 2 Catholic schools, Loyola of Chicago and Villanova? It's the first time multiple Catholic schools, as we come up on Easter weekend, have been in the Final Four since 3 Catholic schools went on the historic weekend back in Lexington, Kentucky in 1985 when St. John's, Villanova, and Georgetown all went there. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a Catholic school final like we did in 85 when Georgetown played Villanova and the Cats ended Patrick Ewing's career in college with a loss for him.
I love Porter Moser, but that would ruin my bracket, man. I need Michigan to win that game.
No way, man. Villanova all the way.
Your bracket is even alive. Most of them were gone the first weekend, blew up the first weekend, everybody's bracket.
Hey, as long as Nova wins it, I'm going to be have a good week coming up after that. That Nova team going all the way. Where do you think, like 2 years ago when they made it, do you feel that this team is more of a favorite or has more pressure on them than that team did 2 years ago?
I don't think they have more pressure. I think that the one thing, and I remember the incredible amount of Villanova fans that came to Houston. There was a confidence in that team in 2016 where Villanova fans just felt like it was our time. It was our year. But we still had to go play Oklahoma that had beaten us by 23 in Hawaii in December. And we took a team that had beat us by 23, and Villanova won, by 44 points, the biggest margin of victory in the history of the Final Four. And then you've got to play a juggernaut in Carolina in the championship. So Villanova was not the favorite at all 2 years ago. If you really look at it on paper, they were a slight underdog against Oklahoma, and actually that was pretty close. And then they were a slight underdog to Carolina in the championship game. But clearly Villanova is the favorite to win here. Now, will they or will they not? We'll see. But I think in terms of overall, it was a little different. But I know the Villanova people really felt that Villanova was going to win the national championship when they showed up in Houston 2 years ago. There was something incredibly special about that team. I hope this team has that same kind of karma around them in the next 3-4 days.
Now, that being said, you mentioned the 2 possibilities of 2 Catholic schools. Is there a matchup looking ahead that is a better matchup for either Kansas or Villanova, Loyola or Michigan? I know a lot of people beeline Michigan, very well coached, Loyola, great story. It's one of those teams a little bit, would you be wary of either of those teams?
I'd be at both because they're both on fire. I mean, Loyola of Chicago, they won 32 games. They won 14 in a row. You watch them, they look nothing like an 11 seed. But I also remember when George Mason went in 06 as an 11 seed and VCU went in 2011 as an 11 seed, they had that look, and then they showed up and they played terrible, both of them, in the Final Four game. And this is, to me, the most intriguing thing. Loyola Chicago has been so loose, and they've played so well. But when you get to a Final Four, it's completely different, and it'll be interesting to see if they play the way VCU and George Mason did, where they look nothing like the team that won 4 games to get there as it played out with those 2 in the past. You've got Beeline, who's an incredible coach, who coached in a national championship game just 5 years ago in that Louisville game. I think Michigan is more talented, and Michigan has just caught fire. I still can't believe they got by Houston on that shot, but that's what makes the tournament great. I think both teams, if you ask me honestly, I'd rather play Loyola Chicago on Monday night for the national championship because at this point, I don't care who we play. I just want Villanova to have the best chance to win their second national championship in 3 years. I take my chances against the Ramblers over the Wolverines.
Well, you can hear the Final Four and the national championship game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Ryan Fannon will call it for the Villanova Wildcats as they are in San Antonio. How's San Antonio? Good town for college hoops?
It's incredible. I don't go to the Final Four every year, but I've been to a good amount of them over the years. And I came here in 08 when Mario Chalmers hit that incredible shot and Kansas rallied to beat Memphis in overtime. And the Riverwalk, the whole setup for the Final Four, I remember leaving in 08 saying, this is the best Final Four town I've ever been in. It's just set up. It's fan-friendly, great restaurants, great venues, the Alamo Dome, the weather, it's just a incredible spot for a Final Four. And now that we're here, and I just arrived, the team arrived yesterday, I got here today, And I'm looking down at our hotel lobby here, and they've got the huge posters on the wall of the Villanova player. It's just an absolute spectacular setup here.
Nice. All right, we'll be listening and watching, and of course, Villanova tonight, Saturday night, 8:49, something like that. That you'll get the tip off, and Ryan will have the call for the Villanova Radio Network. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it as always, pal.
Hey, great being with you guys, and bring on the Jayhawks.